Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Classic Movie Rambles, where I talk about old movies that I found in my closet while cleaning. This week's movie is The Big Lebowski. It's a comedy from 1998. It's about 1 hour and 52 minutes long, starring Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, and Julianne Moore. And the movie starts with a cowboy voice narrating the story while a tumbleweed goes down to the city of LA, and then cutting to the dude, which is the main character played by Jeff Bridges, shopping for milk. And the narration continues, and the dude kind of is this kind of cool guy. He's like this stoner kind of, basically what he does is he's like to bowl and drink White Russians and smoke weed. That's what he does, and he's been doing this since his dawn of time, basically. So he goes to buy milk, but he's like unsure, so he kind of opens the pack and kind of sniffs it and takes a sip of the milk, and then he goes to register and pays for it with a check, and he has this milk mustache on. It's kind of funny. He's this like low life kind of character, and then he goes home, and then he gets assaulted by two guys. One is a Chinaman and the other is this like kind of lanky kind of character. And he gets kind of pushed down into the toilet, and he gets threatened, and they want his money, and they say, "Where's the money, Lebowski?" And he's kind of like, he's confused and he doesn't kind of get it. And then there's this Chinaman. He pees on his rug, and one or two goons, I guess. And then the goons realize that this isn't the Lebowski they're looking for, because the dude is just a low-life kind of character. They're looking for another Lebowski that owes Jackie Treehorn money, basically. And there's something to do with a girlfriend named Bunny also, but we get to that later. So anyway, they realize that they got the wrong guy, because he's not married. He lives in a flat. He rarely pays rent. He's not a millionaire. And also, this other guy, he drops like this bowling ball in his bathroom. It kind of makes a crack in the foundations of it, and they kind of leaves. So the dude has this problem now where he needs to find out who actually sent these guys or whatever. He needs to basically see the real Lebowski, and he wants to get his rug back, because he's a simple man. So he goes to see his friends Donnie and Walter at the bowling alley, because they're in this tournament, and they kind of are a team, three kind of weird guys. Walter is this kind of ex-Vietnam vet, I guess it's called. Like, he was in the war, and he has these kind of flashbacks to the war, and he kind of always talks about the war, and he gets angry. And Donnie is just this calm guy. He's just there. He's bowling. He likes bowling. And the dude is like this stoner who, yeah, he just bowls and enjoy his life that way. And he talks to Walter and Donnie about what's happened, and then basically what happens is that Walter cuts Danny off because he's out of his element. This is this funny meme joke that's on the internet. And then Walter gets into rambling about stuff. And then the dude goes to see the real Lebowski. And he's in a weird wheelchair, and he's kind of disabled. And he has this, he does this work for the community where they have these young urban achievers that he kind of helps people, and, good kind of guy. Has all the kind of keys to the city and all this on his wall, and the dude kind of walks in and starts to explain the story about his rug and everything in it. And then the real Lebowski says, like, or Jeffrey in this case, he says, like, "I know about everything. You don't have to explain it to me. My assistant Brad told me over the phone. You don't have to repeat yourself. And what do I have to do? Where do I fit into this?" Or basically something like that. And the dude says, "I want my rug." "Well, it's not my problem, because I didn't send the thugs on you." And then they start to argue forward and backward. And Jeffrey says to the dude, like, "You're a bum and you're unemployed, and the bum will always lose." And the dude kind of just said, like, "Fuck it." And then he leaves. And then Jeffrey kind of yells at the dude, and slams the door while he's yelling. And then the assistant Brad comes up to the dude and says, okay, did everything go good and whatever? Yeah, the old man told me to basically take any rug in the house, any one I wanted. So it kind of, then other assistant packs up the rug and gets it to a trunk. And meanwhile, out to the car, the dude sees Jeffrey's girlfriend, Bunny. She's by the poolside and she's like, you know, sunbathing and whatever. And the dude comes up there. He's like enthralled with her, and he looks at her, and she has this nail polish on. She's just painted her nails, and she just says, blow. And he goes like, what? Blow on him. And he kind of takes the hand and he looks at the nail polish, and Brad kind of introduce each other to each other. And down in the pool is this Swedish actor named Peter Stormare, and he played this nihilist kind of character. And I think he's supposed to be German or something, but there's a mock-up German. But anyway, he's like passed out in the pool on this kind of rubber raft kind of thing, and he has this bottle of Jack Daniels floating next to him. Like, it's kind of funny. He's just like sleeping in the middle of the pool, and then Bunny basically tells the dude that, well, I'll suck your cock for $1,000, and the dude says, okay, I'm just gonna go to the ATM, pick up some cash, you know. And then we cut to Danny bowling with Walter and the dude, and Walter has his ex-wife's dog with him for some reason in a small cage. And then there's this other guy that steps over the line while he's bowling, and Walter kind of tells him to mark it 0, Smokey, mark it 0, because, you know, you stepped over the line and this is league play. So, and Smokey kind of says, well, I didn't step over the line, you saw nothing. And Walter kind of says that it's league play, Smokey. Sorry, mate, we can't do that. Smokey says, fuck you, Walter. And then Walter kind of pulls a gun on him. this funny scene where he's like, puts a gun up. Smokey, you're entering a world of pain. Mark it 0. And he kind of like makes, he marks it 0, no score points. And then he puts away the gun. And then the dude kind of gets angry at Walter, and then he leaves. And then Danny and Walter, and they go to the car, and they sit down, and the dude kind of explains, you can't just pull a gun at a person. And in the background, there's like this whole squad of police cars kind of storming the bowling alley, kind of rushing in, and then they kind of leave. And then cut to the dude making a White Russian drink then. And in the background, you know, you hear the answering machine going off, and there's like the bowling alley calls and tells about what happened. You know, Walter can't just, you know, draw a gun during league play. You might actually shut down your team. And meanwhile, he's like half listening to this stuff because he's in his own little bubble doing his own thing. And then Lebowski's assistant calls him and says, we need you right here, it's urgent, we want your help. And then there is Smokey calling up and telling like about his version of Walter. And then it knocks on the door, and the dude goes to answer it. And it is his landlord, Marty, this kind of short, fat guy kind of. And he basically tells the dude that he's late on his rent, his payment, and if he could get it down on Sunday or something, just slide it in under his door and would be fine. And then Marty talks about his recital or something. He has like a show, sort of like a theatrical thing, and the dude can't say no because he really owes this guy money, his landlord. So he kind of says, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, sure. It's kind of this funny scene where he's just in the moment, and all this stuff just happened to him because some guy peed on his rug, and he just wants his rug back, and all these kind of weird things just happen because of all this kind of stuff. And then the dude goes to see the real Big Lebowski, and he gets over there, and he gets asked for a favor to more or less, you know, pick up, because there's been a kidnapping. Bunny is missing, so there's this ransom note written with like mixed letters from, you know, when you cut out from a newspaper, like all different sizes and things, and you kind of paste it onto a paper and make up. And the dude kind of reads this letter, and he says like, do you mind if I smoke a joint? And the other Lebowski is just like chanting about all the stuff, and he's kind of smoking his little blunt joint kind of thing, and he's like, oh, like high or something. He's like, that's a bummer, man. And he kind of gets the role to act as a courier because he can get some money out of it, I guess. So he kind of agrees with it. And I think there was like a kidnapped, whatever. And then he has to leave, and then the Big Lebowski's assistant says to the dude like, her life is in her hands, man, so you better do this right. But not in a man, but her life is in her hands. That's what he wanted to tell you. So it's kind of this weird up thing. And then cutting to a bowler named Jesus. He's a real good bowler, and they're at the bowling alley. And Walter kind of explains to the other guys, and I think they actually know that he's a sex offender. He's a pederast. So he basically goes for small children. He's a good bowler, but he has all these kind of weird kind of fetishes. And there's like a little montage when he actually had to move to Los Angeles. He actually have to go to every door in the neighborhood, knocking on the door and says, hey, I'm a sex offender, I offend little kids. And there's this like funny clip when he like knocks on the door, and there's this big buff guy looking at him very angrily, and he goes like, oh shit. And he also have to explain what he's doing. That's kind of funny. And then the dude tells him that he basically is gonna be a courier, and he got this beeper, you know, like a pager basically. And then Donnie and Walter talk, and Donnie says, I think this is a reference to something, but he says, I'm a walrus. I don't know what that's about. And then Walter goes kind of angry and talks about the Vietnam stuff, and I don't know, he kind of rants about it. And then Jesus come up to him and kind of mocks him because he's a better bowler, I guess, and then he leaves. And then cutting to the dude at his home in his apartment, lying on this carpet that he got from, or took from Jeffrey Lebowski, the real Lebowski, I guess. And he's resting there with his headphones on, and he's listening to this cassette tape with the perfect strikes, and he's just listening to it. And he kind of opens his eyes, and there's this two goons, and they kind of hit him in the head, and he kind of passes out, and he dreams about flying over the city and tripping and falling to the ground basically. And then he wakes up on the floor with the rug gone, and he's kind of in pain, and his pager beeps, and now it's time for the dude to act as a courier. So Walter is tagging along basically, acting as the driver, and so the driver calls him up, and the dude kind of says, where do you want us to go? And there's this kidnappers, or presumably kidnapper at this point, but they don't really know. And where can we meet up or whatever? And then the kidnapper guy on the other end says like, we. And the dude kind of freaks out because he realized he was supposed to go alone as a courier, and Walter's not even supposed to be there. And then he goes like, well, you know, the royal we, you know, me and my driver. And then they kind of hangs up. And then Walter goes into this crazy rant about they're just a bunch of fucking amateurs, and don't worry, dude, they'll call back because they want the money and whatnot. And it's this really funny scene, and then of course the kidnappers calls up, and Walter kind of says amateurs, and it kind of ruins everything. And the dude says, where the fuck do you want us to go? And they kind of drive along. And before the scene, the Walter kind of had this idea that maybe they should just screw the money because, take the money for themselves or whatever. Or he has this weird idea about it. So he has this kind of a fake bag with his dirty whites, his underwear basically. So he will use that as a mock-up to give to the kind of the kidnappers, and while they're long gone, they will have the money or whatever. So they drive down a bridge, and the kidnappers just says, throw the briefcase with the money in the ditch and just drive by. And there was no exchange or whatever. And so Walter is driving the car, and he kind of says, okay, he kind of throws out the fake, the ringer as he calls it, a bag with his undies down into the river by the bridge or the ditch. And he kind of jumps out of the car, and he kind of has this machine gun with him because he's crazy war guy, and he kind of falls out of there, and he's like tumbling down, and the machine gun starts to fire. He kind of spins around, and the dude has to like go for the wheels, and the car crashes. And then the kidnappers leaves with the fake bag on their motorcycles. And then cutting to Walter and the dude bowling, or it's actually just Walter bowling. While this is happening, the phone's kind of portable phone is ringing, and he just ignores it. And Donnie kind of arrives, and the phone keeps ringing. And then Donnie tells Walter and the dude about the league play, but Walter can't play because of Shomer Shabbos or something. It's like this Jewish holiday, if I pronounced it right. And basically the reason is that Walter is not really Jewish, but he has this attachment to his wife. He kind of takes care of her laundry and her dog and everything, but they're not really together anymore. So he adapted her religion of Jewishism. Well, and this kind of stupid. So and they kind of argue a bit because the dude kind of think it's stupid, and then the dude angrily leaves, but he goes out to the parking lot, and there's this funny scene where Donnie, Walter, and the dude is just standing there, and Danny says like, dude, where is your car? And it's been towed, or it's gone, it's not on the parking lot, and he's like, damn it, fuck it. And he likes, where are you going, dude? Says Donnie. I'm going home, Donnie, says the dude, and he kind of walks. And then the phone keeps ringing, and Donnie says, dude, your phone is ringing. I know, Donnie. And he just walks home. And then cutting to the dude at his home, and the phone is still ringing, and it stops ringing. And then there's this two kind of officers that he's been brought there, where he talks about his stolen car. And he kind of asks him about what was in the car. And he says, no, like Creedence tape, and there was this briefcase with papers. And they ask what's in the briefcase, and he can't like say that that the briefcase has money in it and it was stolen. So he kind of says like, well, there were what do you do? And he says like no. They kind of say like, okay, what's in the briefcase? And it's like unemployment papers. And then they ask him, what does he do for a job? And he says, I'm unemployed. And I think that's kind of funny, like what kind of paper does an unemployed person really have? And anyway, then the dude's kind of home phone, like his, back in the days he used to have phones that were attached to the jack in the wall. But, you know, that phone rings, you know, the phone at home, and it's Maud, this other character that gets introduced. And she's put on a speaker because he doesn't pick up the phone, he goes straight to the answering machine. And Maud basically talks in or speaks in a message on the recorder and says like, I'm the one who stole your rug, and you can find me at this and this place. And the police officers kind of joke that that's one thing sorted out. And if we get any more information about the car, we will call you up. And then the dude goes to Maud's address, and there's like this dark, empty room, and he kind of enters, and he kind of sees this kind of a big canvas on the floor, and he doesn't kind of realize, and there's some weird chanting in the background, and all of a sudden Maud comes half naked, flying through the air on like these wires. She's doing this weird art project with paint, and it kind of she kind of sprays paint on this canvas, I guess, and two guys kind of stops the wires, and she kind of gets into a robe, and then they talk a bit, and she kind of says that this is like a weird kind of mix up. It's hard to explain, but she starts talking about the art that she's doing, and because she did it naked, it's kind of vaginal, and a lot of people get comfortable when someone says vagina, or like if someone says dick or someone's Johnson, a lot of people blush about this and become uncomfortable. And then the dude he's kind of this chill guy. It's like he doesn't really know what she's hinting at, so he kind of like follows along. And then Maud says, "Do you like sex?" And he says, "Sure." "You mean coitus?" Or because of the previous kind of talk they had. And then she shows this tape with this guy from early in the movie that was in Bunny's pool at the Big Lebowski's mansion, and then his name is Uli, and there's like this porn tape, and this, you know, this kind of funny scene where there's a naked girl opening the door, and it's Bunny actually, so she's like a nymphomaniac porn star or something, and it's kind of funny to hear Peter talking like a German, speaking like German, and there's like this funny dialogue, because that's actually a true thing. Like porn movies, you don't watch it for the plot, but this is fucking hilarious. And she kind of opens the door, and he's just standing there like all manly, kind of like, and he's like, "I heard you have some problems with the plumbing, da." And "Yeah, we have some problems. Don't mind my naked friend. She's just coming out of the shower right now." And it's like, ah, oh, god damn it. And then Maud says, "You know what happens then?" Well, dude says, "Well, he fixes the plumbing." No. So he kind of, while this is going on, he kind of pours himself a White Russian, because that's what he do. He's chill. There was a bar there, and he just asked if he could take one. And then Maud asked him to see a doctor because of the damage that her goons inflicted on him. And the real reason why he couldn't take that drug basically was that it wasn't Lebowski's, the Big Lebowski's rug. It was actually hers. It was a gift that she gave to her, to him, and it was not. So you could like, so she offers him like a 10% deal or something. So there's this like a follow-up thing, and basically she wants to give him money for some reason. I don't really remember why, but then there is like he gets driven home in a car basically, and he talks to the driver, and then the driver says like, there's this kind of Volkswagen car that's been following us for a couple of blocks now. Do you know him? Well, no, he doesn't know. And the dude kind of leaves, gets dragged out of the limousine into this other limousine where the Big Lebowski and Brad is sitting. So Jeffrey Lebowski in the car, and Brad, the assistant, is there too, and the dude on the opposite seat. So the Big Lebowski is really angry at the dude because what's happening, why he doesn't answer his phone and everything. And this is some logic that Walter kind of talked about that I didn't mention before, but Walter had this idea that Bonnie wasn't really kidnapped. She kidnapped herself just because of the money or something. And while he tells the story to Lebowski, he's kind of confident about his theory and Walter's theory. But then Brad kind of shows him this like thing that's banded into some kind of band-aid or patch, and there's actually a toe, a woman's toe. So he's kind of disappointed in the dude. And then cutting to the dude and Walter at a diner, and he kind of explains the situation, what just has happened. And then Walter gets kind of, and he kind of shows the toe to Walter, and Walter kind of says, "I can get you a toe. I mean, I can have a toe for you like in about like 1500s or whatever." And then they kind of argue, and he makes it into this Vietnam kind of thing again, and he gets upset and not lower, but making his voice louder. And the waitress kind of tries to calm him down and says, "This is a family restaurant, and if you keep this up, I might ask you to leave." "You can't ask me to leave because I served." And I was like, and the dude kind of the dude kind of leaves, and then Walter kind of sits there, and everybody's like oogling him, looking at him, and he's like, I'm gonna finish my coffee. Yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy my coffee. And then the dude leaves, and cutting to him like in a bathtub, and he's smoking a joint. And this is like this funny scene. He's like having this little small joint left because he's a bum. He doesn't have any money to buy more drugs or whatever. So he kind of has that little joint, and the guy like smokes on it like all funny. And then all of a sudden there's a crash in the living room, and there's this kind of weird kind of guys dressed up in leather or whatever, and they kind of enter his bathroom, and he says like, you can't enter, this is a private residence, man. And they kind of gets into this bathroom where he's lying all defenseless, and then there's the nihilist gang with the Uli. I think the character is called Uli, and the guy played by Peter Stormare, and his kind of gang of 2 other thugs. And he has a ferret, which is like a rodent or something, if I understood right. And they throw it into the bathtub, and it kind of threatens him because they want the money. And they kind of gives him a slip, but they kind of destroy part of his apartment in the process. And then the dude goes. He actually gets the call from the cops, and his car has actually been towed, and he goes to the kind of towing place or whatever, and there's this police officer that kind of tells him that there's no briefcase, and his car has been used as a bum's kind of personal toilet, and it kind of smells like piss, and there's a broken windshield and stuff, and there's like, okay, is there any other lead on the briefcase or something? And then the cop makes a joke like, yeah, we have like several detectives working on it right now. In fact, they're working shifts, and it kind of laughs at him right in the face. And then the dude goes to the bowling alley again with Downey and Walter, and they just talk, and then the dude kind of just tell Walter to fuck off, basically. And Downey and Walter leaves. And the dude is left, and he's kind of pissed off, and he goes to the bar just to order something to drink, basically. And then there is this cowboy character. He was the one who was narrating the whole story from the beginning with the tumbleweed and everything. And it's kind of this situation when the dude is kind of bummed out and he's kind of down, and the cowboy just try to cheer him up and tell him a story or whatever. Then he just leaves. And then the dude gets a call from Maud, and she basically tells him, have you seen the doctor yet? And he says, no, I haven't. And then she wants to meet up with him. So they go to like her penthouse, and there's this Maud's friend is basically there, kind of this queer, kind of giggly kind of guy that he first meets up with. And then Maud arrives, and then there's like a phone call, and then the giggly guy kind of answers it, and then it's Maud's friend, and Maud kind of tells the dude to go see the doctor, please. Do it now. Do it for me, basically. And he goes to see the doctor, and he checks him thoroughly. And then later cutting to the dude riding his car, listening to Creedence, I think. And then he kind of sees this detective in his back of his mirror, and he's smoking this joint again. And he kind of flips it out the window, but the window is closed. So he kind of bounces back at the window and down his crotch, and it burns him. And he kind of has this open beer in his other hand. He kind of pours it down his crotch to kind of clean it up. And then he crashes into this dumpster. And the Creedence is still playing. He's kind of shaken up about this. And then he kind of finds, looking in the seat, there's a hole in the seat, and he finds this essay, this note, this basically a homework. And he's kind of confused about this. And then it cuts to the dude actually going to see his landlord's performance. And his landlord, as I said before, is this short, kind of bald, chubby guy. And he does this kind of weird theatrical performance where he's dressed up like a fairy, and there's this bad improv. He's having a chair, and he's doing all these weird ballet kind of things. It's like really weird. And Donnie is there, and Walter kind of gets there, and he tells the dude that basically he's been investigating this whole thing, and this homework is basically there's a little kid named Larry who made it, and he's kind of the son of this kind of writer kind of this show kind of called Branded, I think it was. I don't know, it's kind of this famous show or whatever. I don't know if it's in real life or just mock up. And then Walter kind of says like, we will be in and out, there's no problem, we get the money or whatever, and we can go to the In-N-Out burger afterwards. And after that's actually cutting to the going down to this old person, this writer, and this kid that they assume have the money. So they kind of parked outside the house, and there's this nice Ferrari kind of red sports car outside, and the dude kind of says, oh, the kid has already spent it. And it's like, no, Walter says kind of like there's still some money left, we can get the money back. And then they tell Donnie to stay in the car, and Walter and the dude goes up to the door and knocks on it, and the housekeeper opens up, and they ask if they can see little Larry, and the housekeeper thinks that they're cops, because they have Walter has this fine kind of suit that he wear on the landlord's plate from earlier or whatever, and they kind of get this audience with this kid, and then they talk to him and ask, Larry, is this your homework? And he's like this kind of stone face, because he thinks they're just stupid. He's like his, calm, straight face. And Walter kind of goes crazy as he usually does. Okay, I'll see you. Okay, but this is what happens, Larry. This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. And he grabs this crowbar and he goes out, and he tells the kid to watch from his window. And this is a funny scene because it's not the kid's car, and they got the wrong guy, basically. So Walter goes out with his crowbar and he yells, this is what happens, Larry, when you fuck a stranger in the ass. And he proceeds to beat the shit out of this red sports car. And Larry's just standing there in the window like, what's going on? And the dude kind of, it's like, okay, crap. And then the whole neighborhood kind of wakes up, and the guy who actually owns the car, this other guy, comes out, and what are you doing to my car, man? And he kind of takes the crowbar from Walter, and he kind of goes bashing on like the dude's car, and it kind of mashes it up, makes it even more beat up, and it's like everything goes south. And later they actually go for the In-N-Out burger, as I said, but the car is all busted up and it's broken windshields and everything. And then the dude has had enough of everything and all this shit, so he's like home and barging his door up, and Walter is on the phone. He's talking to Walter, and he kind of have this discussion with Walter, and he's like, no, I don't think the kid was about to crack, Walter. Fuck you, man. And he kind of puts a door against the handle, and there's like this barge, like a wooden plank or whatever. And then this kind of funny scene, because he kind of bars the door and it kind of sticks there, and then the thugs outside kind of just open the door, because it's doors goes outside, not inwards, and the door and the chair kind of falls over, and the thugs just enter. And there's these two guys that just said these were the guys that beat him up in the first place and kind of put his face into the toilet. Then they just tells him to see, they'll take him to see Jackie Treehorn, basically. And the dude gets taken to Jackie Treehorn's penthouse, where so Jackie Treehorn is in the adult film business franchise. So he makes porn movies, basically. That's what he does. And he makes this kind of statement that in the future, this is in 1998, so he kind of makes the prediction that in the future everything will be digital, porn-wise, on the internet. And it will be digital. You don't have to really have one. You can just go for porn on the internet. And this is, the internet, mind you, was very early in these days. So it's like you have web pages, but they were not that functional or that kind of multimedia, not kind of that expansive as they are today. But the reason why Jackie Treehorn brought the dude here is that he wants Bonnie back, because she is a great actress, because she's a nymphomaniac. And then the phone calls, and Jackie goes to pick it up, and he talks to this other guy on the other end, and then he leaves. So the dude goes up to so Jackie kind of make these notes down on the paper, and the dude kind of, okay, maybe I can get a phone number or something. His gears in his head are spinning. So he picks up this pen, and there's this old trick. When you use like the tip of a pen, you can actually rub it against the notepad. And because of it's been pressed down, so you have like it's a bit deeper where the pen has gone down. So if you carefully just scrub it down, you will actually get the number out of it. But this is this funny scene where he's like doing a fast when Jackie Trione is away, not looking, and he does this pen trick, and he kind of it reveals a picture of a man with a giant penis. It's like, oh crap. And what am I supposed to do with this? He kind of puts it in his pocket, and he rushes back to the sofa and sits down and tries to look comfortable. And then Jackie hands him a drink, basically, and it's drugged. And he kind of is disappointed at the dude, and the dude kind of is in this daze. He kind of cannot see straight. He drops his glass, and he says to Jackie, Jackie, that's a strong drink. And he kind of wobbles. All the dude ever wanted, and he's being sincere and drugged up at this point, all the dude ever wanted was to get his rug back. And then he kind of face planted into the glass table, and it kind of mushes his face. And then he has this trip, a crazy kind of drug trip, where there's this bowling, and he's helping Maud to ball or whatever, a ball. And then he's kind of running from the nihilist gang, Peter Stormer, and these kind of German guys with big scissors, all dressed in red like the devil, and he kind of runs from them, and then cutting to him actually running on the freeway, getting chased by police cars. So he's been very drugged up. And then cutting to the police station in Malibu, where he's like still in a daze and drugged up, and the police chief of Malibu is talking to him, and he kind of explains that Jackie Treehorn is basically this big shot, and you are nothing. You're a big bum, and you know, don't mess up. But he kind of, and then the dude kind of says like, Jackie Treehorn treats objects like women, man. He kind of mix it up because it's supposed to be reversed, and it's like, and then Jackie Treehorn says like basically that he's a bum and whatnot, and he kind of puts him down in a disgrace and just talks shit to him. And the dude kind of, and then he says like, do you get all that or whatever? And the dude says, no, I wasn't listening to what you were saying. And then the police chief of Malibu takes this cup that he has in his hand and kind of throws it in the face of the dude, and then he pushes the dude's stool or whatever chair down, and he kind of kicks him while he's down and tells him to just stay out of Malibu. And the dude kind of takes a cab home, and he's had a really bad day, and the cab driver is kind of funny, like he's listening to this Eagles on the radio or whatever, and the dude says, oh, I had a really bad day and I fucking hate the Eagles, man. And he gets thrown out of the cab in the middle of the freeway, and then Bunny drives by with a sports car, because she wasn't really kidnapped in the first place. She just left without saying anything. And the dude doesn't see this, but she drives by. And then the dude goes home, finally gets home, and he finds out that his house has been ransacked. And he says, yeah, oh man. And he's like, and he kind of walks in, and he falls over that little kind of barricade, kind of plank that he put in the floor, and he kind of trips over and just looks up, and there's Maud just being there, like, and he's kind of confused. And she basically says, love me. And then they have this sex. They don't show that, obviously, but cutting to them lying in bed, and the dude kind of explains his story, what he's done. And it's basically what he's been doing the whole this movie. He's been smoking weed, he's been bowling, occupying old houses, which he's doing because he really doesn't pay rent right now. And he also explained that he's at one point was a roadie for Metallica. I think that was kind of funny, like when he says they were a bunch of assholes or whatever. And then And then basically he just goes for his bar and just making another White Russian again, because that's what he does. And he kind of asks this question about all the things that's been happening, and she kind of straights most of the strings right out. She basically tells him that Jeffrey Lebowski, the real dude, not the real dude, but the Big Lebowski, doesn't really have any money, because all the money that he has is to the charity, and he just basically has an allowance. The money is tied to the foundation itself, not the person. And so he kind of gets all these kind of things, because she is really smart. And she kind of, while he's up making his drink, she kind of switches her position, and she kind of moves up and puts her legs up a bit, and he asks like, what are you doing? Is that some kind of yoga? No, it helps with the fertilization or something. He's like, what? And he realized that, or she explains to him, he kind of spits his drink out, and she says that she's basically used him to get a child, because she wanted a child, but not really a father that was there, because she just wanted a child. And he doesn't really want a man in her life, basically. So he just wanted someone that really didn't care, and the dude was perfect. And then, yeah, let's do this. And then the dude calls Walter to pick him up, basically. And the dude goes outside to wait for Walter. And then that detective from earlier in the Volkswagen kind of confronts him, or the dude confronts him, going to his car, tell him to get out of the car. And the detective basically tells the dude that he's an admirer of him. And he tells him that he is actually also looking for Bunny, but he goes under another name of Fawn Knudsen, or Knutsson, I guess, because of the Scandinavian reference, whatever. And she wasn't really kidnapped, she just took a days off and she was doing her thing. And then Walter arrives and he gets into his van. And cut to the nihilist, the Peter Stormare's gang, the Germans actually ordering lingonberry pancakes, which I think is kind of funny, but whatever. And then one of the members of the nihilist gang, this girl it was actually her toe. They kind of zoom in on it, so you see that it's her toe that was actually clipped off and not Bunny's. And then cutting back to Walter and the dude explaining the story, what happens and what's really been going on. All this information that Maud basically gave him in the bedchamber, basically. And then they arrive at Lebowski's manor or mansion, and Bunny has crashed her car into the fountain, and Brad is there, and he's kind of picking up her clothes because she's running around naked for some reason. Maybe she's just happy being back. And Walter and the dude goes in to see the Lebowski, and they basically confront the guy, and he admits that he uses him just because he's this low-life bum and he really doesn't care, and it was never about the money, just weird like story thing. And then Walter kind of says, I know a faker when I see one. You're not actually handicapped, you're not disabled. And he kind of lifts Lebowski out of his wheelchair and drops him on the floor, and he's paralyzed, so he can't stand up. And he's kind of lying there, and he's just crying. And the dude says, yeah, whatever, Walter, just pick him up, put him back in his chair. And then they kind of leave. And then cutting back to the gang again, bowling. And Danny is, throwing a ball at the bowling alley, the ramp or whatever you call it, the playing area. And he misses a strike, and something inside him kind of breaks. You can see his face like he's never missed. Something like that. And then just the other bowler named Jesus arrives, and he kind of is angry at Walter because of his Shomer Shabbos, as he said it, day of rest shit. Because of his religious thing, they can actually postpone the tournament because it's a religious thing, and religion goes before league play apparently. So Jesus is kind of angry at him, and then he kind of leaves. And and then they go outside basically. Walter, Donnie, and the dude. And they're just gonna go for the car and whatever. But then the nihilists are there waiting for him, and they want the money. But the dude says, "We don't have your money, and you don't have shit either. You know, you don't. Bunny is safe basically, and you have no ransom. There is no demand. There is no hostage." And Walter points that out as well. But they just say, "Okay, just give us the money you have on you, and we'll call it even." And Walter kind of says, "You're not getting my money," and he, for once, he's actually standing up for the whole crew and doing something good. But while Donnie and the dude is kind of like, "Okay, I have like the dude is like, I have $2, and Donnie says, I got 100 and whatever, or 10, and then kind of Walter kind of throws his bowling ball at one at him, and there's this fight, and but basically what happens is that Walter kind of fucks him up, but as what happens is that they kind of defeat the nihilists, and they kind of crawl home or whatever, but Donnie's had a heart attack, and they kind of call the ambulance and whatnot, but then cutting to later, because Danny died from a heart attack basically, and they're at this funeral home. So they kind of burn Donnie at this point, and they talk about buying an urn and whatnot, and Walter kind of gets angry because there's like $180 for an urn, and he says, "We don't need an urn, we just need to spread the ashes at the sea." That was his last wish. And they kind of argue, and he kind of talks about his stuff again, and then Walter says something like, "Okay, no urn," and there's like, and he mentioned this like there's like this restaurant, this kind of place or something, and he kind of gets one of those, and he puts Danny's ashes in like a metal lunchbox or something, and then go out to this kind of cliff that's out over the sea and everything, because apparently Danny likes surfing, and he also liked bowling. So the dude and Walter goes out there with Danny's remains, and they stand on this cliff, and Walter has this speech, and it kind of trails on, okay, he was a good man and whatnot, and turns into this Vietnam kind of soldier talk, and the dude is like, yep, just angry looking at him, and then it's like, well, he was a good bowler, and Walter kind of opens the lid of the lunchbox and spread it to the sea, but the wind is actually turned against them because of the wind is coming up from the sea up to the cliffs. So all of those ashes and remains kind of get blown into the face of the dude. And when Walter, kind of turns and realizes this, he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm so sorry." And he kind of sort of brushes off, and the dude is super angry. But Walter just hugs him, and the dude kind of like, they're both in grief at this point. So, but whatever. And then Walter says, "Dude, just fuck it. Just go bowling," because they always bowl. So, and that's, even if it's good and bad, they always go bowling. That's the whole point. Like, that's what they do. That's what they have in common, basically. And then we cut to them actually being at the bowling alley. I think they're prepping, or they might be league play, whatever. And then the dude goes up to the bar, and in this time he's in a much more happier mood, and asks for 2 beers. And the narrating cowboy's there, and he asked the dude like, how's it hanging, or how's it out, what's up, dude? And he kind of a positive kind of talk about the whole situation, and the dude says, I gotta run now, but yeah, the dude abides, and that's one famous line. And then he goes off, and then the cowboy character kind of looks into the camera, breaking the fourth wall, and talking about like the little Lebowski being on the way, and talking about the kid between Lebowski and Maud, and like the whole dude philosophy is just, he's taking it easy for all of us sinners and all that. And then he cuts him off by himself and saying like that he's rambling again. And then the camera kind of pans over to this other guy in the background, kind of rolling a strike on these pins. And that's the end of the movie. So what do I think of The Big Lebowski? This is actually one of my favorite movies, and it's kind of this funny thing, because it's like a cult classic. It's comedic and funny, and everybody can understand this kind of low life kind of guy that he just want his rug back, and he doesn't want to be part of this whole kind of kidnap drama that really wasn't a kidnap drama about money and everything, but he just floats along like he's this normal kind of guy. And it's actually a kind of funny side note, because there's actually a religion based on the whole philosophy of like the dude abides and being like the dude walking around with sunglasses and having shorts and this kind of Kurt Cobain kind of sweaters, you know. It's just a really good movie, I guess. So if you can see this movie, or if you have it or can rent it or whatever, have it a watch, because it's a really good movie. You know, sit down, have some popcorn, some beers, whatever. Just enjoy it, because it's a really good movie. You just have to like just be there. You don't have to do much else. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and take care.